All right, let's dive into the kind of bullish higher time frame markets, because there's some relatively nice setups out there when we're talking about a 6 to 9 month kind of time horizon. Could be longer. You may get impulses in a shorter distance, but what we're looking at really are higher time frame markets that are set up extremely well. And we're really looking here at the weekly and the monthly time frames. So of course the big caveat to all of this is, NFA, DYOR, all the fucking acronyms possible. And any of this information obviously could change depending on global situations, etc. So as it stands right now, there are several markets that are in a very good position from the higher time frame perspective. A lot of them are commodities. So you've got gold, silver, gold and silver miners, precious metal miners. You've got oil, you've got uranium stocks. And then you've got the potential for BTC to also join that list of markets that are looking very enticing for the kind of the longer term. Again, if we're thinking about into 2024, ETF approvals, talking about halving, talking about all those important events, and then the associated equities or beta plays with BTC, MSTR, Coinbase, and you've got Riot as a nice miner. So what we'll do is we'll start off with kind of the other side of things, the equities and the commodity side of things, and then we'll dive back into BTC to round things up and that discussion there. So we'll start off with gold. Now, higher time frame gold, monthly gold is really where all of the juice is through here. So we've got a lovely monthly setup on gold with this RSI 50 here bouncing perfectly away and challenging back into this 2000 resistance that has now been hit into 3 times. And we're very much hoping that the fourth push into this zone will produce a breakthrough. So higher time frame, very, very good. This monthly run up here is great. We've already had the move down here over the course of 2022, which took out all of these lows over here. Immediate bounce back inside. And then I think even when you come down on the lower time frames through here, what we've seen over the course of the last 3 weeks has also been very interesting from gold. This looking as though it's just going to be the breakdown. It looks as though gold was basically failing. This was the kind of final hurrah into this region, and then gold was just going to fail straight back down here. And then we had the immediate weekly response followed up this week, which is at this point in time, with 24 hours to go, looking like another very good weekly candle to back things up and starting to challenge this diagonal where we had the breakout last week on the recovery candle. It looks as though it's basically a classic kind of fake out to the downside before this move into fresh highs. And again, every single time frame basically from the daily upwards is saying that this is in a good position now. And if we're thinking about kind of that 6 to 9 month time horizon, here is a fine spot to be a buyer. However, if we want to kind of, be a little bit more nuanced in terms of our buying, and this is applicable to any of the markets that we look at, then we can probably start to think about, what a nicer entry looks like, potentially a profit maximizing entry, as long as we're not going to get chopped up while trying to take those entries. But anything I think that pulls back into kind of 1940 for gold is probably going to be in an interesting spot. So you can see through here on the daily time frame that we've just got kind of a nice zone in here that's had a lot of respect and interaction before. So if gold does correct down here, which I think a correction is probably coming based on the 4 hour here and starting to kind of weaken over this triple push that we've seen, then I think anything that's kind of trading back down now into this zone, potentially tags into 1930, would be a decent opportunity for gold. And then we'll move across here to silver as a nice little segue through the metals. Now, silver has always been a market that, there's a lot of opinion on silver in terms of the way that silver has traded over recent weeks, months, years, decades. And the way that silver looks, again, very similar to gold in terms of this looks as though it's the failure of silver. And believe me, I have been long on silver for a very long time. So I have been long on silver from down in this region here. And from the breakout that we had in this zone here back in 2022, I was posting about this shit for a long time back then. And this, I was very close to closing position on. I was very close to getting out of silver on this breakdown because everything was kind of broken at this point. You know, I really didn't like the weekly structure through here. I didn't like the failure of the weekly zone that we've got here at 22.50. Very important zone for silver. Again, you can just kind of map it out here with the wicks included. And this is a really important zone for silver. You can see, look at all of the interaction here in 2020, 2021, 2-year span here, resistance zone, failure here, straight back up, right? So like it's a great zone for silver. And as soon as we were losing this level again, I was like, shit, this is it. They're gonna make me run out of this position after, 12, 14, 16 months of holding. And thankfully, a very good weekly recovery. Monthly in a very, very good position as well, similar to gold. So again, we're just holding this level. When you go to the monthly time frame, this level still looks good, still looks solid. Yes, traded down below, little fake, and then back above. 3-month quarterly chart, also very interesting position. Still holding that RSI 50 bounce, starting to try and tail away. But again, this is kind of bringing our 6 to 9 month time horizon in, that we would be looking for silver to start trading and passing through some of these levels and all of this build up that we've got here. When it comes to how far silver can run, I don't know what the answer is to that. I would like to think that silver could do crazy things. It does have the potential to be quite a volatile market when things get rolling, especially, and again, maybe not the best example as this was during COVID, but even the rallies that we see up here is a nice 2x in a market that is certainly less volatile than crypto assets in terms of chilling you out a little bit while holding them for longer periods of time. Sometimes people need that kind of reduction in volatility. It may come with slightly reduced gains, but you're probably not going to get chopped up as often or have to kind of move in and out, panic in and out of positions during, a longer holding period. The psychology of that can be quite difficult at times. So silver quarterly set up very nicely. And again, every time frame through here, a little bit behind gold in terms of the strength being shown. Silver tends to do that. Usually likes to do a catch up, especially if conditions are good. Silver is, again, a very good mover when the market turns green. Very good mover when the market's red as well, unfortunately. But again, this reclaim, this recapture here, I think anything back down to mid-22s, again, is probably a good opportunity on silver to start thinking about positioning if you want to be a little bit more nuanced in your approach through here. Otherwise, less extended than gold, potentially a comfier buy and hold from a position that it's currently in right now. And then we'll do oil. So oil has basically been trading. You have to ignore the couple of markings I've already got on this, but they're actually quite helpful. So oil has been trading very cleanly through this zone, very, very cleanly indeed. What we have here is we've got the breakout of the 12-month range down here, 2022 to 23 range. We've got the breakout and we've got the retest. So very simple TA application. This is just the support retest now, the flip of this resistance into the support zone here, and a good bounce away so far for oil. And then what you've got in the lower time frames through here as well is this really nice SR flip on the 4-hour, where the 86 level seemingly is proving to be a pretty good holding spot for oil through here. Once again, as soon as we switch to the higher time frames like the weekly, coinciding with our retest here, we've got the RSI 50 reset, which is a great position for kind of higher time frame positioning, and the monthly being in a very good position as well. RSI moving back down, starting to push back away, and the quarterly giving us the perfect RSI 50 bounce as well. So once again, a full set of confluent factors on the higher time frame, along with some very simple support and resistance, which do help in giving us some good invalidation points for any higher time frame trades still. We want to try and be a little bit wider in terms of our stops. We want to make sure that we've got the room to allow these positions to breathe and to fluctuate in value over a 2, 3, 4-week period, potentially longer, before the impulse comes in the direction we want it to come. So we've got to make sure that we are kind of applying the right risk to trades like this, and given the fact that our stop losses are probably going to be a little bit wider in these situations. Let's head across to uranium. We can do associated stocks, maybe, but just take a look at this. UEC, URA, UERG, UROY, some decent options to look at, potentially with the not looking at this one as the stock option, but URG, UROY and UEC, decent markets, but we'll just focus on uranium here from just the ETF perspective. And this is a position that I am already in. This is a position that basically gave a very good setup on the monthly. So we can see here again, very simple TA on the monthly time frame. We've got a monthly diagonal through here. We get a breakout back in July. We get continuation of that in August. We get continuation of that in September. And this is the first red month that we're seeing so far for October. Now, RSI 50 here with a bounce higher. Great setup for higher time frame positioning like we've covered off before. The weekly is slightly more extended than some of these other markets. So what we have here is a market that on a weekly time frame is showing a little bit more in terms of a sign of exhaustion up at the highs. Trending markets shouldn't care as much about being in this kind of overbought region, this overextended region. We should be able to sustain that for a decent length of time. As you can see during this run on uranium back in 2020, 2021, we just basically maintain this overbought position on uranium for pretty much the best part of 16 months through here. And then eventually you get a correction and then it just blasts off again. So here, slightly more extended. Is it a major problem? No, but I do think you have to be aware of that in terms of if you're just buying and holding something like this, you may see a greater fluctuation in terms of downside price action before we get a continuation upwards. However, the daily time frame is set up very nicely here. So at the moment, it is looking as though this here is the pullback for uranium, and this is a sizable pullback as well from trading up here near enough at the $50 region all the way back down here. We've already had a 15% correction on uranium from the high that we've put in, and it looks as though price is now starting to make its move back to the upside, getting this nice bounce away here on RSI again. We've had the bearish crossover now in the AO, so we're looking back towards the bullish crossover and hoping we're just going to get another one of these weak little AO crossovers like we had through here. 3-day, again, nearly back at that 50, maybe one little move down, so $40, we'd be looking to stick another 10%, 30% down from the highs. That would make a very interesting proposition for adding size into uranium through here. Again, targets, we're looking for a move through 50, and then signs of exhaustion that we may get from any expansion and move through that zone. So uranium, again, very nice looking higher time frame market. We'll do gold miners just so I can quickly cover those off, or precious metals. NEM, interesting chart, higher time frame again, weekly. You don't need me to explain this one in too much detail. Really nice kind of pattern over here in terms of our support and resistance levels, our areas of supply and demand, and the potential overcoming on one of those sides. So if price starts to move out of here, then obviously we've got a very good signal to enter into this position. Miners tend to lag behind metals. So once we see a move in gold, then usually the play then is to move into miners. So we kind of get that lag effect on them. So when gold starts to take off, then the transition and the look is then of the market over towards the miners. And this is where I'd expect a chart like this to start performing very, very well. So a simple trigger for this is just going to be a breakout of this level here, which is pretty much going to be around the 41 zone. It's where you're going to start to see a breakout. And in terms of targets, again, at this point in time, not sure. Really depends on where gold runs to, what the situation looks like, but we have a very simple trigger here in terms of entering the position. Another one is WPM. Slightly better in terms of higher time frame consolidation, the region that it's sitting at. But again, you can see this is very much like the gold monthly chart here, where we've just got the RSI retesting at the 50. And we're now looking for the bounce and the push and the movement into fresh highs over here. Quarterly chart also, again, looking very interesting, very similar to the gold chart. And once we get a push through 50, then expecting this to obviously trade significantly higher, ideally. So WPM, NEM, I think are the two kind of favored markets that I have here. There are some more kind of like memey ones that you can play into, especially like GATO from a silver miner perspective. And you can look at playing into those. They're probably ones that are going to be like, Wall Street Bet style meme miners. who knows what that environment's going to look like. So it could be a very good opportunity. And then BTC and the discussions on BTC. So again, many of you will have seen my content over the recent weeks, which is talking about bearishness on BTC and not believing that this will make fresh highs. And that's where I just have to kind of remind you that I'm talking about a 6 to 9 month region through here, and I'm very much aware of what the process looks like for BTC over the next 6 to 9 months. And there's going to be a lot of potential catalysts that are going to help in driving this higher. So as it stands right now, I would love BTC to pull back. Will I still be a buyer on the lower time frames if we get a correction? Absolutely, yes, I will be. And then I'll take the first stab at BTC, hopefully down in this sub 28k region here, take a stab on BTC here, and then look for movement into the upside. The weekly close is actually going to be very important for BTC through here. From just my system perspective, this is a very, very nice signal in itself. Just this little move back and then impulse away from RSI 50, especially with the potential for the bullish cross on the awesome oscillator. I really like those signals. It's just very simple kind of, press green button, higher time frame style simplicity. So that would be the ideal situation. Little correction, take the first shot there. If this turns into a very poor situation for BTC in the shorter term, then I would just basically look at buying anything that is the aggressive sell underneath 24. You get down under here, I think this is the zone that I would just look at being a buyer. When it comes to my higher time frame bearishness, it's not bearishness because I think we go to fresh lows. It's just bearishness in that I don't think this makes a fresh high. I would much rather see this move and then this. So I would rather see this area here eliminated, aggressive move down, final shakeout, let the bankers fill their bags, and then send it higher. So that's the ideal. Okay, I'm not talking about kind of my bearishness being on the fact that I think BTC is coming down here or it's trading, into this zone here. I mean, they're all potentials on what it might do. However, that isn't really what I'm planning for. I just want to see some aggressive run and baiting of the market to the downside before a very quick V reversal and transition back into fresh highs. That would be the ideal. Like I said, 6 to 9 month time horizon, I still think that this is a very good option, especially if the global uncertainty and monetary situation continues in the way that it certainly looks as though it will. I don't think you can go wrong with holding BTC through that period of time. And then lastly, we'll just cover off Coinbase and Riot. So Coinbase, again, bearish short term. I think that this looks like it just wants the downside. Again, I said on a video this week that if there was any crypto chart that was looking like this, we'd all be waiting for this to break down. And I think Coinbase is going to break down. But once again, I think Coinbase is going to put in a move that is going to tag lower quickly and recover. So this 65 zone is quite important on the monthly. We're basically sitting above this monthly breakout region here from the range over 2022 into 23. And I just want to tag back into here. I just want to tag back into 65 and these highs from here. So we've been very close. We've hit 69s. We've been very close to this region, but I think there's just a little bit more that we'll get here. Again, kind of final shakeout. And this move here, as I said, I want to see this trade lower into the 65s, quick recovery, and then send it higher in line with crypto, ideally. So that's what I'm looking for there. And again, if we get a situation in which crypto is in a positive position, it takes a greater alignment with gold, with metals, and less with equities, which still look very poor, then I think that this is another great opportunity in terms of a longer term hold. I also think there's lots of potential upside and catalysts for Coinbase. If we want to talk about things like Binance, then I think that Binance's struggles are potentially to the benefit of Coinbase should anything happen or materialize on that side of things. And I also, based on what we've seen with Ripple recently, I think that the SEC is going to meet their match in terms of when they come up against Coinbase. And as a US business, I don't think there's going to be a huge fight put up against Coinbase, especially given the reception that Gensler is getting on pretty much any public appearance so far. And then the last one would be Riot. And again, we're just thinking about the 6 to 9 month time frame here because right now it looks like a piece of shit. So Riot here benefiting from BTC strength. Right now we are holding on to the divergence, but we're right on the edge of potentially giving that back. I refer to these sometimes as fuck you legs. So what they are, what fuck you legs are where you've got a lovely divergence structure like this. You got your nice higher lows all the way through here, and you've got price making lower lows. And then what price does is it does some shit like this. All right, so what it does is it comes down here, makes a lower low, and then it immediately reverses and pushes up. I think Nvidia did one at the lows, if I remember correctly. I know it just held the div. Yeah, it just held the div. I was sure that Nvidia put in a fuck you leg. Let's see. Not quite. Not quite. But very similar here in terms of structure. So you can see it all the way down here. Right? This low actually held, which could happen on Riot. Could happen on Riot that we still just get the higher low in here. But you can see it on Nvidia here. So you've got this lovely divergence. You get your impulse away. It looks as though this is going to be the divergence playing out. Bam, strikes you with one last one and then rips. And this is like Pico bottom here. So lovely setup on Nvidia with that kind of example of the fuck you div. And if we get something like that on Riot, where we just end up getting a sharp spike down on Riot through this region here, again as the final fuck you, then I think again that's a good opportunity and a good way to start thinking about Riot. The other thing that you can do with Riot, just for simplicity's perspective, wait for a breakout of the diagonal and wait for a reclaim of $10 as a weekly level. If you're looking for strength and you don't want to buy into a market that is potentially could unwind and sell off more aggressively, then wait for the strength and wait for above 10. That's the simpler option that you've got through here. MSTR I should do as well. Okay, we're running 25 minutes. Let's do that. So MSTR is breaking out the diagonal now. It's in a far better position, a position of strength. The higher time frame is pretty decent for it as well. Weekly time frame looks good, holding on to the RSI 50 level. A very, very clean market. The monthly is also in a very good position, holding on to the RSI 50. MSTR is positioned exceptionally well right now. It is the best of the beta equities plays for proxy BTC exposure. This is your ETF market. This is the bull market from an equities perspective if BTC rips higher. And the higher time frames for MSTR are significantly better at the moment, especially given the performance today, closing 4% up, than we see on Coinbase and Riot. So right now, MSTR most certainly has the advantage, and especially with this breakout here that we're seeing on the daily time frame. I know this is the 4 hour, but the daily time frame with this breakout that we're currently seeing. So if we stick this, if BTC gets some strength, if we don't see a significant sell-off or a correction in BTC before a push higher, this is the market kind of that would be my focus if you're into equities crypto exposure. I know that not everybody has, whether or not they have confidence in keeping money in crypto right now, whether or not they have access to crypto products, whether or not they have greater access to equities products, then this is the one that I would go for if you fit into that category. Or if you're looking for something that you want to supplement your crypto exposure with, that may reside in a different location. And keep in mind that MSTR has outperformed BTC this year. So it is a better performer than BTC. I always give this example of this breakout. BTC broke out of its daily here at the same point. MSTR was almost 100% better performance than BTC was throughout this move. So it's also not a bad option to be considering. All right, so that's it. And remember, NFA, DYOR, I don't know what's going to happen. This is just the outline based on higher time frame charts that have the potential to change. In 2 months' time, this may look incredibly bad analysis and foresight. It might look fantastic, but we'll wait and see. But as it stands, they're my picks and my reasons behind them.